This highlighted game is against Eredin, or in other words, against the monsters. I'm playing, as usual, Skellige with what I would qualify to be a kind of an advanced basic deck. I don't know if that's even a qualification. And you're about to see a game of luck and a game of strategy. I've selected this game because I wanted to show you what does it mean to be lucky in a game of Gwent, and what does it mean to use your luck smart. There are a few tough decisions that I had to make in the last round, and you're going to see what the outcome was. I kept the bear, and I got this guy because they are extremely useful against monsters. I don't know if it's just today's modern term or today's tradition, but most of the monsters still seem to be running low HP or low value cards. I don't know how long that's going to continue. I expect the monsters decks to turn into high value as I progress with a higher quality deck, I should say. Playing the leader or playing everything in the very beginning means that they actually force me to play more cards or bigger valued cards. And that's good for them because that might actually be their strategy, leaving Eredin as the only card, which means they get to use him in the second round as well, because that's the passive ability for the monsters. I am using a buff here. Since my opponent used their class, their leader card, I've decided to use mine. That gives me a chance to put more things in the graveyard for later usage eventually if I need. Otherwise, maybe I'm just buffing my Axeman. And in this case, that's exactly what I'm doing. The guy on the second row with 10 points at the moment is a very good combination with any kind of debuffing cards. Since my guy turned into 12 points as soon as I spawned my silver card, I already have the highest value card, so that wasn't a problem of me damaging their highest value card, because in case they decide to use Scourge on my Axeman, he would be the highest card. I was saving that move for when I have the highest card or when Eredin isn't the highest anymore, so I can damage the front row of my opponent. Here he used Fog. Luckily for me, I managed to kick away the other units that spawned automatically. And I consider this to be a smart move passing here. I have enough cards played already, value cards, unit cards. And remember that my deck, Skellige deck, is actually strongest in the later rounds and the later stages of the game. I forced my opponent to play a card, and in this case he had a good card. He also got lucky by keeping Eredin here and spawning these lesser elementals. I can't really say if my draw was luck here or lucky, but nonetheless I'm trying to get ahead with preparation for the next round, for the final round. I definitely need to win this one, so I need high points. Playing the cow is just kind of countermeasure in case I want to stack units on the front row, because I usually do that, and it's one of the traditions for Skellige to stack units on the melee row. And having a card with such a low value like the Holy Cow actually prevents my opponent from lacerating, because they actually buff me, in a sense.
I swear on my honor.
The extra card that I've earned here is not of a huge value at the moment for me, or at least I don't consider it right now. But it was good for me to be able to discard one of the two cards that I generally want to discard. The Skirmisher is still amongst my lines here available in my hand, but I've managed to discard the other one, who's turned into a bear now. And I will tell you a little bit later why this bear is important. I personally consider this to be a mistake from my opponent passing here. 10 points is a good enough advantage, but he's got too many cards with low value, and he needs to be very lucky to be able to get a decent advantage for the final round. So it's up to me to beat him. I have no other option. It doesn't matter how many cards I will or have to play. I need to do that.
I can help
So
you if you wish.
Hermione is actually a good move, and here is exactly where I get lucky. Throwing Regis, or as he's more known in the English-speaking community, English Witcher fans, Regis. This is extremely lucky. Look at this. I gain advantage, I beat him in the second round, and I get ahead with 17 points for the last final third round. This is a huge advantage really, and that's exactly the moment where I get lucky in this game. Will it help me? We're about to see later on. That's 1-1. I've lost my card advantage from the first round. And right here my opponent gets the unlucky draw. His one card to be saved is the exactly 1 point strength cow. Very useless. I'm starting to draw cards from the graveyard already. Here is a tough decision. Do I use for more points my skirmisher? Do I use the bear? I don't really have many more units left on my hand, except if I use the Freya cards to draw them back from the graveyard. But the bear is usually useful when I have Warcry buff card, and I don't have one at the moment. Or when I have the Axeman, who's actually in the graveyard at the moment. Or maybe when I have my leader card to buff the Axeman. You get my point.
Nothing like some overseas plundering.
Stacking points on the melee row in hopes that maybe he's going to lacerate. Maybe not. The decoy is extremely useful card in this very occasion because I actually get to use the Freya 3 times instead of just twice. This means I get to pull more cards from the graveyard. And the good news is, thanks to the 2 silver cards that I opened the row with, the turn with, I actually have the advantage.
But she brooks no insult.
Checking the cards, what do I have? I have 4 non-gold cards on the melee row, and it's actually a good opportunity to use Scald, because I'm going to get a nice decent buff without going over the board with too many points on a single card. My highest one is 11, so even if it gets... There is the Lacerate. Even if my highest card gets Scourged, I still have other cards of great value. And look at this. This is the moment where I play the right move, or I think it is the right move. Of course, it depends on luck. I have many red cards or many damaged cards, and that's exactly where the bear comes into play. Remember, I discarded this guy in the very first round. And if you do the math correctly, you would see that all of these points on the front row are going to get lacerated in a moment when I use my card. And yes, I will remove the cow and it's going to spawn the big one. But look at this, it's actually 5 points advantage. And it is good because that in that case my opponent may be holding a horn buff card or a war or a Warcry or something else that buffs multiple cards on the same row. He does actually have a buff. In this case, I'm lucky that his Thunderbolt potion only buffs 1 card because he doesn't have exact copies from the others as well. And I don't know why I'm delaying here and playing the weather card for the end. It doesn't change anything. I don't have a chance to save it. And yes, my opponent does appear to have the Commander's Horn. Thankfully, I've lacerated earlier on and I've managed to secure the win for myself.